And today's guest is Cindy Olson. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Cindy. She was a founder of the Natural Health Collaborative, and Cindy empowers cooperation, communication, and collaboration among natural health experts. She promotes pain-free, holistic wellness with 14-minute meals. Imagine that. This is awesome. 14 minutes. I got to get all our stuff. Now, with her extensive knowledge in gardening, Cindy propagates plants and edible flowers, making her own soil, and saves seeds year-round. Oh my gosh. Her love for the earth extends well beyond her garden. Her true calling lies in assisting individuals who feel exhausted and overwhelmed by the reliance on processed foods. Through her expertise, she creates quick and nutritious 14 meals daily, helping people transition to a healthier lifestyle. As a dedicated home chef and enthusiastic recipe creator, Cindy is on a mission to help families eat more nutritious meals without frustration. Wow. You are a very hard act to follow, that's for sure. But welcome, Cindy. I'm so happy to have you here on the Professional Women's Wellness Podcast. And I can't wait to dig in. And I'm just going to, you'll probably kind of go on your own. But what I'm curious about is a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get into this and what inspired you? Or did you learn this at birth?
Well, that's a really interesting question because I didn't start asking that question until a few years ago when people said, oh, you have to have your, signature story and that sort of thing. And I realized that I was really in a bubble when I was young. And what I mean by that is I lived almost a 19th century lifestyle. We made candles, we gardened, we, made all natural remedies. And I had an older relative. Her name was Aunt Boya, and she came from Sweden, and she brought all her knowledge with her. And, she had goats in the back, and she had a cow that I could, milk and take care of the chickens, but mostly she loved flowers. And she was the person who, when I was 2 years old, said, we got to transplant. And it was raining, and it was April, and it was in Connecticut, and it was very chilly. But you know what she did? She had me eat one of the violets that I actually was transplanting. And she says, if you eat flowers through your life, you're going to feel good. And what she meant is flowers are actually very good to enhance our emotional health. So they're not just good because they're beautiful, right? They come in lots of colors, and obviously that is very nutritious. If we only eat processed food, we're not getting the phytochemicals that come in flowers naturally. So I grow flowers year round. I know what I can eat, and I try to let people know that they can start slowly, but add that into their diet. Okay? If you just start with one petal, right?
Oh, wow.
You can change the way that you feel.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Anyone listening to this podcast is going to say, what? I can grow flowers and eat them? Because how do people tell? And, this is a curious question probably everyone will have. How do you tell what flowers you should not eat, what flowers you should eat, what flowers do what?
What I would suggest is that if you have any herbs, right, this is a time and it's in flower now. And this time is something that you eat the leaves of, right? And it's very thin, so you can even just cut it up. I use scissors. I don't use a lot of knives. Yeah. But what's great about eating herb flowers now, you're probably not going to need to save seeds. Okay, so flowers go to seeds, and that's why you want to have flowers. But if you're not saving seeds, you can basically eat most herb flowers. So something that you already know. Start with what you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what a rose looks like. Now,
Mm-hmm.
don't eat roses from florist shops. Okay. For the most part, they come from South America. They're very highly, they use so much pesticide on them. I've been to some of these growers. I'm not faulting them, but I'm just saying it isn't something you want to eat. So if you're growing it in the backyard and you don't really, put anything on it, don't use fungicides or anything like that, then yes, you can eat the petals. Okay. But start slowly. I love nasturtiums, right? I eat quite a number a day,
Are
but
they also
I
known
have
as?
been eating them
Wow, beautiful. Yeah.
since I was a child, right? We grew them inside in Connecticut because it's a vine, and it has nice round leaves. So that's why I'm saying this is a very identifiable plant. You don't want to go out foraging by yourself if you've never seen plants before or you don't know what they are and just looking at a guide and saying, oh, I think I can eat that. Okay. Not a good idea. It doesn't have to be complicated though. Most flowers look a little bit different. So sunflowers, a lot of people grow sunflowers. You can eat those petals, right? So there's so many plants that you can eat. And I, would be glad to talk about what you can't eat. For example, I ate skunk cabbage when I was young, but I always ate it when it just came out. And I used to love swamps and everything like that, tromping through. And one day I got the skunk cabbage. It was the same plant, but I put it in my mouth. I started eating it and it felt like pins and needles. And I was like, what? But I hadn't realized what my great aunt had told me. She said, you got to eat the plant when it's ready and not after.
Oh.
Okay.
Is there another name for skunk cabbage, or is that the name?
That's the name.
Okay. I've never seen it, so I wasn't sure.
So, but you probably don't eat marsh plants. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and that it only comes up and stays for just a little while. So think about rhubarb. A lot of people have rhubarbs that are growing as they've been around in people's gardens for a very long time. They taste very differently in April than they do in June, than they do in August. Okay? So it's not just when the plant is flowering or something like that, but how long it's been there. So there are factors, but I don't want you to be afraid. That's the thing. And if you just want to use flowers another way, there's something called Bach flower essences. And they've been used for, since the 1820s. And they're fairly expensive, but they really help if you have any kind of anxiety, depression, or anything like that. They take the essence of the flower, and then you can just smell it, put it under your tongue, something like that. So there's lots of ways that you can get the natural world into you. But what I would say is if you're not going 15 minutes a day outside, okay, and that includes, I lived in New York City, right, for 25 years.
Oh my goodness, what a switch.
And I grew on a balcony to feed enough for basically 6 people, all their greens and produce and everything like that. So you can grow intensively. Don't say, I don't have enough space. You can set it up, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Okay. I made all my own soil because I didn't want to buy any soil. I was like, I refuse.
How do you make soil?
Well, in New York City, I used the Boccacci system and I used worms. I had a 12-story worm bin, okay, that I had to get up on a ladder in order to get the stuff in and stuff like that. But I had great fertilizer, right? Room castings, people pay a lot of money for. I got them for free because I kept them happy. And I collected all the compost from people in the building and other places,
great.
So they were happy that they were doing something good, and my worms were happy, and it was a win-win. And then
Amazing.
the bokashi system basically ferments everything. That started,
What does that mean, the Bocacci system?
yeah, it started in Japan.
Hmm.
And it's basically, you can make it your own. You just, use a pail or something like that that's covered. And you do have to use their, starters
Hmm.
so that it will go into, instead of oxygen, right? It's
Yeah.
aerobic. So it doesn't
Oh,
have any oxygen, so it pickles. And you can get great fertilizer, just like the worms give good fertilizer. This gives good fertilizer. In fact, you usually have to dilute it at least 10 parts to one.
something.
So it's that strong. And then you can put it into a pot, put a little soil over it, and then it turns into soil in about 10 days. So you can do that all in your house. I did it in a New York City apartment under the sink.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Wow. How
So
fascinating.
you have to find systems that work for you.
Hmm.
That's kind of why I started to do the 14-minute meals. I found out during the pandemic, I thought
Hmm.
everybody cooked. I've been baking and cooking my entire life, and I made food for people and did church dinners and all that sort of stuff. And I'm
They're
like, well,
busy
I'm
eating
a
your
woman,
stuff. They don't have to
you
make.
know. And this is why I was working on Wall Street. I would make dinners for lots of people, and I
Oh
didn't
my
think anything about it
gosh.
because I had been cooking and learning about it from these older women that just imparted this information because they said, you got to help me. I'm tired, whatever. So, but over the years, I had very little time to cook. Now, I believe in cooking quickly from prep to plate, but I believe in eating slowly. Okay. I
That's the key.
really want to appreciate. Okay. I just want one meal a day that I love. And
Ah,
I can say through my entire life, I've had a meal a day that I loved.
wow.
Okay.
Wow. That is so amazing. So what
And
other type of, how do you get your when you do 14 minute
mhm,
meals, we want to make sure there's some protein in there. And of course, we have wonderful carbohydrates, I would say, from all the flowers and the seeds and well, whatever that is. But how do you get your protein in there? Do you use beans or what is it?
well, I'm not a vegetarian. I'm what they
Hmm.
call an omnivore. So
Okay.
every morning I go out and graze. That's the first thing I
Okay.
do. And
Okay.
usually it's before dawn that I go out. Now, I'm not saying other people have to live this lifestyle.
Right.
I have a genetic disorder that I have to be very careful about.
Hmm.
And I found that this lifestyle, I moved to Southern California so I could grow year round.
Hmm.
So I've done a lot. I'm really close to the Pacific Ocean. I get negative ions. That also helps me. So I have set up my life so that I'm healthier than I was 20 years ago. And they said I was going to be dead 20 years ago, right? Western medicine.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I'm just saying you can do so much with a natural lifestyle, but my lifestyle is different than your lifestyle will be. It has to be location based, right?
Hmm.
It
Yes.
has to fit into your type of lifestyle. In other words, if you have arthritis, that doesn't mean sit down and say, oh my God, I'm in pain. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to continue to move. But I could never run a marathon. Okay. I don't have the kind of balance and everything.
Hmm.
Running is not good for me. But I've learned to walk on the sand.
Ah,
Okay.
which is
And,
really good for you.
right. And I have a dog friend that I like to take out for a walk. And he loves to walk and check things out and everything like that. And, when I first came to Southern California, maybe I could walk for 2 hours. Now I can do 4 and 6 hour walks.
Wow, that
Okay.
is amazing.
So I know that it's not exciting for people to hear, just start and do something. Right.
So I'm going to ask you right at this point specifically, since you said
Mhm.
that. Truth is, you're right. A lot of people are not going to go start playing with the earth when they have a full-time Wall Street job, right?
Right.
So, there's all these stores. I mean, we have Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. We have a couple different ones that
Yeah.
have some organic food. But how do you know? Like you don't know, like you said, you don't know where the food is coming from. But how can we help our listeners be able to choose wisely? And I know you're going to say organic, pretty much, right? I mean, you don't want some of this other stuff, right? Or
Well,
am I
I
wrong?
want you to understand, I've been around this, food system for 40, 50 years. I cared about it when I was young, and I just kept learning about it and everything like that. I majored in botany, and, I really very much care about that. Yes, economics too, but whatever, I need to make a living.
Yeah,
And I
gotta
didn't
have
have a
that
beard
part.
at the time, so I couldn't be a botanist. But for the most part, I did it through creating community gardens in New York City.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because I didn't really have enough space, but I knew if I could get people together, right? I set up gardens in nursing homes and things like that, so that people. I thought, horticulture therapy was going to be a big thing in the 80s. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'd like to leave Wall Street and go to yeah, okay. And I was a woofer and things like that. But what I found is they're all over the country, especially now because the infrastructure was set up over 40 years ago. Farmers markets, okay, and something called community supported agriculture. Okay, you can just Google it, and in your area you're going to find something. But what's even more exciting now is every year I order salmon, right? That runs a certain time of year from, the people that actually fish in Alaska, some of the last clean salmon runs, and they package it up and they send it. So a lot of the indigenous tribes in America have these specialized foods that they have harvested in a very clean, natural way because they believe we're part of the biosphere. Okay, they're not of this extractive society, and they actually are now selling them online.
This is amazing.
So you can get things right to your door instead of getting DoorDash, for your local restaurant that you don't know what they've actually put in the food. Okay? Think about that. Chinese food got a really bad name because it used to put MSGs in everything. And a lot of people were sensitive to that. Okay? But that was a flavor that they said, wow, that makes everything more exciting.
Yes.
But there's so many people sensitive to that, they've really taken that out. But the types of foods that Chinese people over the years, now every province is different and everything like that. They have different levels of peppers in it and everything. But they have perfected the idea of cooking quickly. Totally opposite than people in the subcontinent, in India, in Pakistan, and Bangladesh. They'll cook all day long. Okay. But I lived in New York City, and every year I would specialize in a different cuisine. Go to the restaurants, learn what the chefs were doing, get to know them, and then I would say, "Oh, I'll help you out," and I would go and see them cooking, right? And then eventually, I can be very persuasive, and they let me do that. So I'm not, trained as a chef. But what I know is I found the places that the food made me feel good.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I would learn from the people that were preparing it. So
that's great.
It can be done.
Oh, and I love what you suggested about farmers markets.
Yes.
And because I'm in North Carolina, so there are plenty of farms. And a lot of us just go to the farms if they are offering a market. Or, in fact, one of the people in town decided throughout the summer, in front of her, she has a massage, lovely little business, and outside on the sidewalk, she got permission from the city of Creedmoor to do it. She sets up their stuff. They come in with the truck, and she sells it from there. And so we have to stop there every week to support her. We said, oh, good. We don't have to go
Right.
to the farm. But there are things, but as you said, it takes a little bit of investigation to
Right.
find the right things. And another thing, and I know we're going to wrap it up soon, but back to shopping organic. I mean, because there are people that really, they don't mind eating organic, but the do's and don'ts on, if there are any don'ts on organic food, does it matter? I mean, how do you know?
Well, what I would say is organic food was set up so that the last 14 days, the food was not sprayed. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That is so to harvest, you don't want to have something on the outside. Now, the Environmental Working Group out of DC, and also they have an office in San Francisco, has been looking at the top foods that have the most, pesticides and things like that found in them. So I would suggest if you're going to spend for those top foods, like strawberries, any kind of berries. Spend that extra dollar, get something that's organic, okay? Because that makes a difference. Now, there's also biodynamic farms, there's regen kind of agriculture, everything like that. Try to get as close to the farmer as you can, right? If you're anywhere near an Amish area, a lot of them are selling things and things like that, even the jellies and, the jams and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying that you're going to want to eat that every day. Okay. But, as a treat, and it lasts.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe you want to start to make your own fermented things. Start to experiment with different kinds of foods. See what your body is actually really loving.
Love this level of service. Now, I want to ask you one more thing, and I'm so excited about all this knowledge you're blessing us with. Wow, it's fascinating to me, of course, but there's so many people out there listening that really have never heard the side of nutrition from the earth. They just don't know. Kids are being brought up today in a fast-paced world, and they're not taught it anywhere. So this is so golden. I understand you might have something to offer our listeners. And would you like to just tell me briefly what that is so I can make sure they take advantage?
Okay, so I actually realized that people under 30 have a real deficit, all right? I worked when I was very young with someone who was in her 90s and she looked great.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And so I was out and I was helping her and, she tolerated me. And then at some point I was actually helping her. But the thing that I realized is apps are accessible to people because everybody around the world has phones. Okay. Even if you're really, really, So I set up the Natural Health Collaborative so that people could get practical information.
Oh, this is awesome.
It's called the Natural Health Collaborative. Okay, that's the front page.
Okay.
And what's exciting about this is I think that this part of the app is called, all right,
I see it. Very good.
Expert. So the thing is, I brought together, and Peggy, thank you for being a founding member of the directory. All right.
Thank you.
So I'm bringing people together that have different expertise. All right. We have the gardening grandma, right? We have a lifestyle doctor who's now making videos and things like that. And the great thing is that you can put in that question and get an answer to it, whatever that might be. Wow. And there's a lot of questions in the different topics. We have a lot of different topics. And if you go to the area where they say directories, you're going to see there's a directory of 14-minute meals. I'm starting with putting up greens. And I put them on little recipe cards so they look cute. just like whatever. You can turn your phone and then read
What
the
a
paper.
what a generous gift. I would tell everybody listening,
Yeah.
please put that app on your phone, like right now while you're watching, because this is, or listening rather, this is such a generous gift for all of us. I'm just so happy that you have graced us with your time, with your incredible knowledge and your kindness to mankind. Thank you so much. Is there any, one more thing? How can people get in touch with you? I know we will have all of your information in the notes. Is there anything else other than the app?
Well, what I would say is I'm on most social media.
Okay.
Okay. I actually have 3 YouTube channels that I'm kind of bring together because one
Oh
is
my
on gardening
goodness.
and
Yeah.
one of them is on, the pain because I, dealt with chronic pain people, but they were over 80.
Hmm.
And I decided that some younger people needed some information too. So the other thing is in LinkedIn, because this is a professional women, I do put up maybe some controversy topics or whatever.
Okay.
You'll find out that I'm really upset about ultra processed food and the fact that most of our
Hmm.
farm bill goes to that, and a very small number of corporations. All
Hmm.
right. I think that all good food is local.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well,
And
that's great.
what you can do is just, contact me. I'm very accessible and I want to help. And I'm going to leave you with one other thing. The
Last words.
nasturtium,
Here we are. Yeah,
yeah,
I
the
knew you'd come up
nasturtium
with something.
has seeds and you can use this like capers,
What is it
right?
called?
These are nasturtium seeds. They're green. I
Okay.
just picked them, right?
Okay.
I have hundreds of them. I grow them by the pound, I think, but you can take them green and put them in. So all the parts of the nasturtium
Oh, there she
are edible.
goes. I love it. I love it. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I so appreciate your time with us. And to all our listeners, please stay tuned to more to come with Cindy through her app. And I can't say thank you enough.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. I don't have a podcast, so I thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care.